Look up the word crazy in the dictionary and you might just find an asterisk beside the definition that says, listen to the Subiquitous podcast featuring Sue Duffield and you'll find out what crazy means. Sue's travelogue journey of unfiltered stories, impossible miracles, and faith-filled fun will be revisited right here. So buckle up and let's get going with this humorous travelogue of an unfiltered saint, Subiquitous.
It all started with me posting that 1980 Cadillac Fleetwood Brougham. What a boat of a car. You know, taking photos of cars has always been a tradition in my photo op world in the Beatty family. I'll tell you, we have yet to see all of the pictures that my father and my grandfather took of cars. Why? Because they're still in an attic in a box at my brother's house. And one day, I guess we'll go through them. But I got to tell you, as I look back, what a great way to put a memory and a timestamp on photos. Think about it for a minute. Some, actually, we pay far more attention to the vehicle in the photo than the actual people who are in the photo. I remember saying, who was that? We don't know. Oh, but look at that boat. Look at that boat of a car. Look at that 57 Chevy, right? We all do that. Well, at least we do anyway. But the car is all about who I am today. I'm telling you the truth. I'm one of those weirded out females who absolutely love vehicles. So much so that you would look in my phone and you will see that one of the podcasts that I follow is the classics from the NPR Car Talk. Now, Car Talk was a radio talk show that was broadcast weekly on National Public Radio. And I'll tell you, the subjects were about automobiles and, you know, automotive repair. But you got to know, it was discussed humorously. Trust me. And I love the brothers. They were Tom and Ray Magliozzi, you know, otherwise known as Jeffrey. What was their names again?
The Tappet Brothers, Click and Clack.
Tappet Brothers, Click and Clack. And that show, I know, won a Peabody Award in 1992. And let me tell you, they are broadcasting to a whole brand new audience that goes way beyond what we can even imagine with the new generation.
There's only one small problem.
What is that?
The content refers to cars in the 70s and 80s because that's when the show was done.
Yeah, and it's great for the muscle car people and the ones that had carburetors and things like that. Now everything is all digitized and all, you know,
fuel injection,
right.
Throttle bodies.
But it's still fun to listen to.
Oh, they're hilarious.
I'm telling you, I have fallen asleep to many of a Car Talk radio in my ears. So let me ask you this, though, Jeffrey.
Yes, Susan.
Do you own a proper car?
No. No. I have never owned a proper car.
And we were asked that question when?
We did a program for a Rolls-Royce ownership club. Requirement for membership, you got to own a Rolls-Royce.
That's right.
And a good friend of ours,
right,
Mr. Frederick Dawson
yes,
of Wilmington, Delaware, happened to purchase one. His was a 30-year-old Rolls-Royce. By the way.
Does he still have that thing?
As far as I know.
Oh.
But by the way, we took a ride in that car.
Yes.
That 30-year-old Rolls-Royce rode better than most of your cars that you're driving today.
It was weird.
There were no rattles. There were it just rode down just very smoothly. Anyhow, requirement to be in the club was to own a Rolls Royce. But they had a
proper
dinner,
car, as
they call it, a proper car.
That's right.
We were invited to do a program for their dinner, I think their annual dinner, which we did. And at the dinner, someone looked at me and said, so what's your proper car? And I said, a 2007 Honda Fit, which you should have seen the look.
I was half waiting for him to say, oh, okay, that's what my gardener has. You know,
Yes. Well, that's where we were.
It was embarrassing just a little bit to I mean, these were wonderful people. They were very relatable people, but in a stratosphere of finances that we can't even dream of.
No.
And here we are singing for them, entertaining them, and I'm realizing we pulled up
In a Honda Fit.
in a Honda Fit. It was fun, though.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness. So I thought today, Jeffrey, since you
Susan.
and I, and like I say, this last Facebook post that you posted as well as I did about that Fleetwood Brougham, that boat, literally.
That was a nice car. I did enjoy. I have always been a sucker for the American tradition standard, big
gas guzzling.
Well, that had happened to be a byproduct, but more so the ride.
Oh, there's no doubt.
Father was the same way. He was addicted to. Now my son
The
is
Oldsmobile man. wasn't he?
yes. My son is because he couldn't afford a caddy. At least he thought he couldn't. My son is into the European style,
Right.
which is the Mercedes-Benz BMW, which I don't like. You feel like you're riding a
Well,
bicycle.
it's a little harder ride.
Yeah,
I mean,
you feel
it's-
like you're riding a bicycle, and the
Right.
tires don't have any air in them.
Right.
But I like the big boat floating down the road and living room kind of thing, and
TV dinners.
TV dinners and your TV set in the back seat.
The
and
maid.
whole bit. Yeah, exactly.
Dusting
And,
the furniture inside.
That car was the epitome of it. It was one of the last ones. They started downsizing. Caddy did the next year or two after that, and that was the last of the big ones, as they say.
So on a whim, we had friends that was basically our friend was a car buyer out there, and he said, "I can get you."
It was his wife was our client.
Right.
Yeah, we produced an album for her.
And he said, if you ever want to come to California, come.
Right.
Why don't you fly out?
Yep.
Why don't you let me get you into a Cadillac and then drive it home?
And he did. He would go to.
Who does this stuff?
Yeah, he did. He would go to the auto auctions and scout out the cream puffs, as they were, and only luxury cars. And he would scout them out and buy them, do maintenance on them, bring it back up to whatever it needed to be, and then he would sell them, turn around and sell them. And he got us a good deal. We had our choice, if you recall, between the Caddy and a Lincoln Town Car.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
All I remember is that my eyes were bedazzled when I saw the blue, when he sent us a picture of the blue
Well, he
Cadillac.
picked us up at the airport. He and his wife, Sharon,
I
Ron
know,
and
in the
Sharon
car.
Keener, picked us up at the San Francisco airport in the car. It
I
had just been
know.
detailed.
I know.
And we walked into the garage that night after getting our bags and getting off the plane. And we're like, oh, my goodness. And, yeah, he had a Lincoln there, and we had our choice.
All right, let me ask you this, though.
We went with the Caddy.
What did we pay for that? Do you remember?
Oh, gosh. Around $8,000. Yeah.
I know.
And it was only a 3-year-old Caddy. Try that today, folks.
Oh,
Yeah.
8,000. I don't remember. I didn't remember the cost. But
I
know
want to say it was around 8,300.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and we thought, all those years we've been riding around in vans, and somebody told us, "Hey, you can fit all of your equipment in the trunk of that car." They are absolutely right. We could have fit another car in the trunk of that car. In fact, our
Yeah.
Honda Fit that wasn't a proper car, we could have put in the trunk.
Yeah. Well, they didn't make Honda Fits back in 1983, but yes, you're correct. We thought perhaps that we were going to be a little less on the road.
Well, that's true.
And we had, as you well know, spent many years and quite a bit of money buying vans,
Right.
Ford and Dodge vans, and running them up and down the highway.
Right.
And we wanted to be a little more towards normal, as it were.
Oh, yeah, that's normal.
Yeah, so we went out and
How
bought a Fleetwood Brougham.
ostentatious.
Yes, it was ostentatious.
We were told that, but another vehicle, but that's okay.
That thing even had automatic. Not lift. It wasn't a lift, but it was an air. They had air shocks on it, and if you got too much weight in the back
I
seat of
remember
the car, the light would come on, and the back end of the car would rise up so that it would be still be going down the road.
Which is why
flat.
we never stopped and picked up my great Aunt Frances.
No,
we would not.
No, there was one time we had a bunch of people in the car, and that thing was working. but it would level the car. It was a pretty neat trick.
So I have a list. I got in contact with my brother who lives, breathes, and dreams all the classic cars.
Well, the funny thing about it is you mentioned that your father would take pictures of every car that he's owned. I don't know that my father ever took a picture of one of his cars.
That's the diversity of how we were raised.
They were total opposites.
I know.
My father was a car to him was strictly a utilitarian, practical item. Just
not on this side.
On your side? No. Yeah. Now go ahead.
Well, anyway, so he gave me, my brother Dave gave me a list.
I saw the list
of some of the cars that he could recall that my father owned.
I was stunned.
Since he started driving. Now, in 1953, he had a Plymouth Savoy 4-door sedan.
Gosh.
Traded that in for a 1957 Chevrolet 250 2-door sedan, sea blue and white.
I've seen, well, of course, hasn't everybody. I've seen pictures of that one. Yeah.
Gorgeous car.
And I think the dealer gave him a suit to match it.
Yes, he did. Well, and then he said, well, maybe we don't like that color. And so he traded that one in. And this is the one that I have a picture of me standing next to that probably is my favorite car. The 1957 Chevy Bel Air Coupe Black. Stunning.
Your dad had some really...
He didn't have money, but his grandmother did.
Well, yeah. But your dad had some really nice looking Pontiacs.
Right.
I've never owned one.
Well, we haven't got there yet. You wait.
I know. No, I'm talking about myself.
Oh, okay.
I've never owned a Pontiac, but I've always been a fan of their designs. They're always cool, especially 60s. But
There's
go
no
ahead.
doubt. Anyway, then from the 57 Bel Air to the 59 Chevy Impala convertible white that you never saw, but you have seen pictures of.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All right. Now, my point is, that as we go through this episode, you're going to see where I'm going to go in the direction of this. Anyway, in 62, a Chevy Impala SS 2-door coupe that was white. Did you ever see that?
Your dad had an Impala?
Yes, he did.
No, I did not.
But
we
didn't have it very long.
Okay.
We did not have it very long.
Yeah, I did not know you in those days.
No.
When I met you, your dad was driving that white Pontiac.
Okay.
With the AM/FM radio, and it had, maybe it was AM/FM, maybe whatever, and it had a reverb setting on it. Your father had bought a reverb unit.
Okay.
Which I thought was hilarious. That here's the guy announcing on the radio, and he's talking like he's in Carlsbad Caverns.
I know. Well, then our family kind of hit hard times. Now, I'm going to tell you, you can't. My brother never said this, but as I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, okay, now we're starting to become a family man just a little bit here. He traded this 62 Chevy Impala, sold it, I guess, for a 59 Chevy Kingwood Estate station wagon with tan and white on the side with that fake looking wood side.
Wood,
yeah. You know what I'm saying?
You had a Chevy station? Well, my goodness.
Yeah, and that was the one that had the back seat that was in reverse. Yeah. That when you would have the window open in the back, we would breathe in all of the exhaust fumes and wonder why in the world I couldn't remember my name by the time I was 11.
Yep.
Yeah, and then, we had some tough times financially, I got to tell you. My dad had 3 jobs. There was some stuff going on, who knows, in the history. And as I'm working on this Legacy of Faith series for the retreats that I'm doing coming up, Jeff, it's been a humbling thing to talk about the possessions that my family had, right?
Well,
but at the same time,
everybody's had that situation.
Right.
There's hardly anyone that you and I know that have not gone through difficult times. Even
that's right.
Even friends that own Rolls Royces have had their moments.
But the biggest moment in our life at that point, up until that point, was when my grandfather passed away. That was my father's best friend. And truthfully, think about it. My grandfather was 56 years young when he passed away. My dad was just, just only 20 years younger than he. So it was very, very tough on our family. Right. But after all the estate settled out and all the things figured out and the finances and all the wills and everything, we bought a 1964 Pontiac Bonneville Coupe. And
did it have rear positraction?
It probably did.
Refer back to my cousin Vinny. The movie.
The edited version.
The
nice version.
The
Anyway,
cleaned up version. Yeah.
In '69 though, we were smelling ourselves a little bit. We bought a GMC half-ton pickup white truck.
White and
Woo!
gold. White and gold.
Right.
Two-tone
And we put Beatty Bunch on the side.
on a plastic sign.
I know. Now we're starting to get into Jeff Duffield land, I think by 1970, 71.
Oh, yeah. He also had a Bonneville.
Right. We had a Pontiac Catalina, dark green and black with a vinyl top two-door. Do you remember that one?
Well, I thought it was a Bonneville, but it may have been a Catalina.
Well,
your brother would know.
Yeah, I know.
I'll go with that.
It was a Catalina.
Yeah, I remember it.
And then we had a 71 GMC 3/4 ton pickup. Woohoo! Yeah, man.
Yeah.
That was tan and white. That's the one I think that you remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're talking about okay.
Yeah.
I remember the all white pickup.
Right. I'm trying to go in sequential order here. Then the 75 Pontiac Grand Am 4-door sedan, dark red and white, vinyl top. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, that was the car. That was the car that I had to give the news to your father.
Oh, that my brother wrecked?
That your brother slid down the street and hit a tree.
All right. Wait, it gets better. There's a lot to fill in here.
Yeah, there's a pattern here.
Yeah,
I'm the one that's to deliver bad news.
I know, but this is the one. Then we went from then we decided, we're going to go to the Ford scenario now. A 1977 Lincoln Versailles.
Piece of junk.
All right, and then a 79 Subaru Brat Red, which was my father's go-to-work car.
That's right.
Okay, and then a 1982. Here's the one. Then you have a drum roll somewhere. A Cadillac Cimarron 4-door white.
Bigger piece of junk than the Ford Versailles. That thing spent more time in the shop than it did on the road.
You, I don't know. It was the poor man's Cadillac. I don't know what it was.
Your dad wanted a Caddy.
I know.
So
yeah.
He wanted one in the worst way.
I know, and he got one. He got the worst one he could get.
He got it in the worst way.
Then an 81 Subaru wagon.
Yeah, that was his next work car.
Yeah, and then another work car was a 93 Saturn 4-door red.
That one was the good Saturn.
Now the next one is the one that my brother actually says here. This is the car that actually killed my dad.
I think he's right.
Not in an accident form, but just that everything just went wrong in a 1999 Saturn 4-door silver car.
Your mother and father came over to the house the day he ordered that.
I know.
And the Saturn plant was in Wilmington, Delaware, just up the road.
Brand new.
And it was he said to me, we're ordering this car. It's a brand new model. They're going to start making it next month. First order, and I'm going to get one of the first ones. And the old axiom, the old wise sage advice is never buy a brand new model.
Oh, not the first
car,
year.
First year,
That's right.
let alone the first month.
Right.
And I said to your father, you sure you want to do that? Mm-hmm. The first month they're in production, they're going to be getting all the bugs worked out of it. And he said, no, it's going to be great for towing with our motorhome. Yeah. Well, it was good for towing with the motorhome. It was also good for towing with Joe's towing service because he did a lot of that.
Yeah. And
that car was a goofy car.
Click and Clack would have loved talking about that car, for sure.
You didn't believe me. I would get out of that car to buy gas. And the power seat for the driver
would just automatically start moving.
Recline. The back would recline completely flat while I'm standing outside. And you said, "Oh, you must be hitting a button." Until one day we went to buy gas, and you stayed in the car, and I got out, and it started moving.
Oh, and the weird thing about that whole thing was my father, who passed away, and we ended up getting that car. And for years, my father's cologne was so deeply embedded in the leather of that steering wheel.
You'd close that thing up in the summer and let it heat build up. Oh, yeah.
I know. And I thought, here's Al Beatty. He's getting out of the car.
Well, I did the first time I did it. I turned around. I thought he was standing there next to me. It was really weird.
Then we decided in 1971, as a family, we bought our very first Amerigo truck camper. Do you remember that one?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And then in 81, after you and I got married, obviously a few years later, my parents bought a truck camper on a Ford chassis.
Yes, they did.
And then they traded that one up and got the Titan motorhome.
And that Ford motorhome had an electronic control module, ECM, that went bad in it. And that was when they first started using those little guys. And I can remember your dad telling me it was going to cost $300 to replace that module. Yeah.
Oh, the humanity. I don't know how we could have afforded it, though. I mean, it's just
he wasn't
crazy.
happy.
No,
He afforded it, but he wasn't happy about it.
So then last of all, this is the last motorhome that my parents owned before my father passed away. It was a 1992 Airstream, and the name of that Airstream was called, do you remember?
Yeah. Legacy.
Mm-hmm. And there's a whole story behind that one, but we won't get into that on this episode. But I will tell you.
You have mentioned it on previous episodes.
I think that the irony is that he literally, his last vehicle he left was a Legacy.
Yep.
And the truth of the matter is, anybody that knew my father, Albert Beatty, left a legacy, literally.
Would you like to hear the legacy of my father? His cars?
Sure. Do you have them written down?
I don't need them written down.
Okay.
Because I don't know if I was quite like your side of the family, but I was interested in cars, which really would explain my son these days.
Well, he's got it both sides.
He does.
Yeah.
I could tell you car models and years and all that. Anyway, the first car that I think that my father owned, other than a junker that he had when he first got married and didn't have 2 cents to rub together, the first car was a car he won.
Okay.
In a contest in Bridgeton, New Jersey. The merchants had a contest. If you bought from them, you got tickets. And they pulled the ticket out of a hat, and Mom and Dad won this 1950 Ford sedan.
Green, wasn't it?
No, I want to say it was silver.
Why do I always get that wrong?
I don't know.
I feel like the last time I asked you it was silver, and then you said, "Oh no, it's green."
No, especially since you're talking about his olds.
Oh, okay.
Especially since you never saw it.
No, but we've talked about it, and I've often thought it was green. I don't know why.
No, that was the '69 olds.
So
Anyhow,
what's next after that?
Well, there's a little. Maybe we've already mentioned this too, but that was the infamous car that at the age of 3 or 4 years old.
Oh yeah, don't get into that. We did.
What I managed. I decided Dad's car needed a fill up.
You filled it up all right.
I put all the stones in the driveway into the gas cap or whatever,
the tank.
just to help him out. And anyway, that's all. I think that's also on a previous episode. Mm-hmm. He finally got rid of that. He bought a 50s model. I couldn't tell you the year because it was too young. Oldsmobile. He bought a used Oldsmobile. And I want to say it was an 88 I think that was the big model. It was a boat. And he started running that thing around. It started burning oil, and it's getting 7 miles to the gallon. And Dad decided his budget couldn't handle that 7 mile a gallon because gas was, 30 cents a gallon,
right.
if that.
Sure.
So he traded that in and got a 61 Ford Falcon.
Love it.
4-door.
Okay, what else?
Kept that for 2 years, got a 63 red station wagon.
Ooh,
Ford
nice.
Falcon.
Nice.
Yeah, because he was doing a lot of running, and those were the economy cars in those days.
You had you and your brother, so.
Right, but they were considered economy cars because they got close to 20 miles to the gallon.
Wow.
We have come a long way. Then he got promoted to assistant manager, started making more money in the grocery stores.
Right.
And he thought I could step up, and he got a 65 Ford Galaxy, which I thought was just the coolest car. It's just a nice looking car, ran great, 289 V8. It was just a nice car.
Right.
Made some more money and got a salary increase or whatever. And a couple years later, he jumped up to a 67 Oldsmobile 88.
Did I see that one? Was it white?
It was white.
Okay. Maybe you had that in 70. Did you have it that long?
No.
Okay.
No, because in those days, he put so many miles on the cars. He drove 25
Well,
miles.
and then back then you couldn't.
He drove
Putting
25
100,000 miles on a car was
They
like,
were shot.
it's shot.
Yeah, they
Right.
were shot.
Not now.
He wouldn't keep them that long. 25 miles each way to work. So at the end of 2 years, he had 50,000 miles on the car, and it was wore out.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, just to give you an idea of how my father looked at cars, he bought that white Olds, took it to work, parked it on the parking lot of the grocery store, and 3 days later, after he got it, a woman backed into it.
Yeah, and it's time to trade it in.
Almost dented the fender, put one dent in the back quarter panel, and came in, owned up to it. He got an estimate. It was going to cost $150 to fix it.
That's a lot of money, though.
It was in
about back then.
67.
It was a lot of money.
She wrote him a check, and he came home and said, got the check from the woman for denting the car. Says, I'm going to put it in the bank tomorrow. And I said, aren't you going to get it fixed? And he looked at me and says, no. He said, they won't give you any more for it when you trade it in.
That's funny.
He said, I'm going to put the money in my pocket.
But that was George Duffield.
They were
let me just say,
utilitarian.
you know, your father-in-law, my dad, would have never
Then
let a car with a dent.
No, I wouldn't. You know me. I've got cars fixed for less.
So what else? Because we're running out of time. But tell me what else you've got.
Well, he went from that to, let's see, the 69 Olds. The 69 Olds 88. That is the one you remember that was green.
We dated in that one, right?
Well,
didn't we go to dates on that one, like to church and stuff?
Yeah, with my mother and father in the front seat because we weren't driving in 69.
Oh, that's right.
But that was the one you remember.
I do remember that.
And that was the one he couldn't keep tires on. It was GM had a weird suspension that year and it wore tires on it. So he kept that one until 71-ish, 72, and he got that brown 88. Dad was an Oldsmobile man. Again, he liked the big car, the big ride, and he never felt he could afford a caddy. So if you were a poor man that wanted a caddy, you bought an Oldsmobile.
Right.
And that was the one that I got my driving license with.
Okay, cool.
And after that, he switched over into company cars because he changed jobs.
Well, that was the perk of his job, was that he didn't have to have a car payment.
Yeah,
right.
And to be quite frank with you, I didn't pay attention to him after that.
No, I don't remember. I remember something blue, something silver.
He had that blue Chrysler station wagon, if you recall, that had, again, the back seat, as you like to refer
Functional
to it.
cars.
Yeah, and because he was a traveling salesman, in effect. Right. And so he had that one. He had a Volkswagen Rabbit. You don't remember that one, do you?
No, I don't remember.
Yeah, he had a Volkswagen Rabbit.
I didn't pay attention to this.
He had a Ford Monterey or something like that in the early 80s, another car of no significance. Mm-hmm. Until finally we got older and they stopped giving him company cars. He bought a silver Taurus, an 87 silver Taurus. That was a nice car.
That was a nice car. I didn't mind that car.
We used that for a while.
We did.
And he had that one. And then he bought another one. I want to say a 90 Taurus or 93 and ran the wheels off of that. And his last car was a 99 Sable, Mercury Sable, which is
one of the best cars on the road. I'm serious.
As a matter of fact, that particular automobile is still on the road today.
Do you know how many hundreds of miles I put on it?
Oh, I know. We rode
He let me borrow his car, and then when he passed on, I would use it when I would fly to Philadelphia area.
It became the family car.
It became the family car.
And my niece has it to this day.
I know.
And my brother-in-law put some work into it and fixed it up a little bit, and the car's still running. We saw it back at the end of the year. It's still running.
Now, we don't have time to get into our vehicles, but I want to say...
Oh, Lord.
No,
just say vans.
Maybe we've had... If you could see a what do you call it?
I counted it up. I think
we've had a conversion van city is what we were.
I think I counted it up once. I think you and I have owned like 18 vehicles.
Oh, gracious.
Yeah. I think.
Okay.
That's off the top of my head, but
I know.
I did it once, and I think, and that's not counting the two we presently have.
Well, this seems like a strange episode to have for Mother's Day.
But there's a point to it.
But there is a point, and I want you to hang with me on this.
I'll stay right here.
I did order you something. I didn't order you a car,
thankfully.
But I do have something coming by Amazon for you that I think you're going to love.
It's not Father's Day.
I know, but for your birthday. I'm just going to tell you.
All right.
It's a book.
Well, why are you telling me?
Well, because I want to talk about it.
Oh, okay.
And I want to have this author on my podcast if I can get a hold of him.
Okay.
Okay, his name is Ace Collins.
Okay.
And he has written a book called Geared Up Faith for Classic Car Buffs. Devotions to help you reflect, recharge, and restore.
Oh,
Doesn't
my.
that sound great?
Oh, my.
So he is a classic car aficionado, they say.
Wow.
And he cruises through automotive history with engaging stories and spotlights some of America's most admired vintage vehicles. And along with that interesting title, he has anecdotes throughout with fascinating facts about sought-after cars starting from the 1901 Oldsmobile curved dash and accelerating through decades to the premiere of the Ford Mustang in '64. I can't wait for this book because I know I'll read it too.
And I've seen that 1901 Olds. That did
Yeah.
not have a steering wheel.
No.
It had a stick.
Right.
You steered
I
it
ordered
with a
one for
stick.
my brother too. Don't tell him.
Oh, okay. I won't say
But anyway, it says each featured model had an accompanying photograph and has an accompanying photograph showcasing cars such as the Ford Model T, which my grandfather owned.
your grandfather, and I believe my mother's father owned one
Right.
too. I think.
And he's going to talk about Thunderbird, the classic Corvettes.
Okay.
And then listen to this, I love this, with high octane biblical wisdom injected into every entry, it says your faith will be ignited and your connection to grow with God. And it's a perfect gift for an avid car collector, restorer, or hobbyist,
Wow.
or the vintage car fan who is seeking encouragement from God's word. I can't wait for this book to come out.
I want to know is the octane, when he says high octane, does he mean 92 or 93? Or does he mean an octane additive?
Well-
or does he mean the old 105 or 103 octane?
Who knows? That's what you're going to find out when you read this book.
Okay. Did you say it's not out yet?
No, it's coming out on June 7th.
Oh, gee.
And listen, nobody contacted me. No, his publisher did not contact me. I found this book. And it's coming out June 7th. And I promise you, I'm going to have Ace Collins on this show. I promise you I am. You watch me.
Okay, I can hardly wait.
But anyway, in the meantime, Jeffrey, if you want to just sit out for a few minutes and then I'll close, but you can hang in with me if you'd like.
I'm just sitting here monitoring the situation and dreaming of driving a Corvette.
Well, I have a little bit of a spiritual reference to close with. Of course I do. That's who I am. Anyway, I do have a friend on Facebook who loves his car. And I got to tell you, every weekend there's a brand new photo of his car, or part of it. That is, it's always polished, it's buffed, and whatever he's doing over the weekend. And I don't know a great deal about cars, as you just heard, but I do know more about his car than anything else. And believe it or not, this guy has 2 kids, Jeff. The only time I've ever seen him post a photo of his children was when they were sitting in the back seat of his car. And I wish I could just go through the Facebook page and say, tell me more about your kids. Now, I'm not saying this guy loves his car more than his family, but I can see where he puts his priorities, to be honest with you. And I've said it over and over again, and I can tell a lot about a man in about 10 minutes, especially if in conversation, if he never mentions his family. And on episode 99 of the Subiquitous podcast, we chatted just for a little while with Dwayne Nicholson, and he's the first to tell you that what kept the integrity of his marriage and family together has been the fact that he talks about his wife, his kids, and his grandkids all the time. You see, my dad, in his early years, paid a huge price with all of his hobbies, his cars, his involvement with activities, that I have to believe somebody woke up my dad one day and said, hey, Al, it's great you want to do all this stuff and have all these hobbies and all these cars, but your kids are only young once. Don't miss out on it. And you know what? He was right. Mm-hmm. And I want to tell you something. My dad turned around. He loved his hobbies. He still had cars. He still enjoyed them. But we knew from that point back in 1964 to the day he died that his family then became his priority. Now, you may not be as into cars much, but there are often things in our life that overshadow important relationships. And I'll tell you, your career or an outward appearance or our homes can often take the majority of our time, leaving many close family and friends way down the list. And where does God come into all of that? We can easily push him down the list as other things seem so pressing and important. But when Jesus sent the legion of demons out of a man and into a herd of pigs, the townsfolk asked him to leave. And sure, there would have been wary of this weird new guy in town, but they seemed to focus more on the loss of the pigs than gaining a member of their community back. And you can go back to that wonderful scripture in Luke chapter 8 when it says, all the people of the region of the Gerasenes asked Jesus to leave them because they were overcome with fear. So what did he do? He got in his Cadillac Fleetwood Brougham and left. Well, let me just say something to you right now. If only they could focus on the human life restored that day when Jesus healed the demoniac rather than all of their finances lost. We're the same today. We get fixated on things and finances and forget to focus on people and God. And it's good to be reminded where true life comes from. It is through God we find our life's purpose, and through relationships that our purpose is expressed. So what draws your attention? Well, for me, I got to tell you, you just put a 1957 Bel Air teal and white in my pocket, a matchbook. The Matchbox car is probably what I can only afford right now. But I know the one thing that it does attract my attention, but there's nothing that attracts my attention more than a man who loves his family, and a man who loves and has devoted his life to his family like my dad did and had to recover from later on in life. So guess what? I'm learning to shift gears, Jeffrey.
Well, I'm glad you finally did.
Yeah, I'm shifting gears now.
I've heard grinding before. So.
And you'd be proud of me. I don't just drive an automatic. I learned how to shift gear, too, and driving a 5-speed.
You did.
Including just the last year or so, driving my son's souped-up Subaru that had all kinds of gears that I had to figure out.
Yeah. But that car would move.
And I want to say to you today, this little simple lesson of learning what value is and what the most important part of your life is comes to me in Romans 15, and we'll close with this. The verse 13 says, "Now the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace in believing, that you may abound in hope through the power of the Holy Ghost." Man, that'll gear you up. We'll see you next week. This is a Subiquitous Podcast. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode number 101, Car Chasing. We still are. And guess what? We're still God chasing too. Get on SueDuffield.com. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Happy motoring.